Welcome back to Inside MMA and the first edition of the Not So Neutral Corner, where we go toe-to-toe with MMA's biggest topics. Joining us are George and Brian Garcia from MMAjunkie Radio. Guys, first and foremost, congratulations on over 2,000 shows. Quite an accomplishment.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being there, for showing up and giving us the time.
Yeah, and Boss called in. It was a great show. It was a memorable show. Thank you all for stopping by. It was great to share with people like yourselves and all our listeners that came from all over the world.
No one works harder than these two, I'll tell you right now. All right, let's get right to it. Let's begin with the news of the week. Anderson Silva. I guess the question is, after what went down, will Anderson Silva's legacy be tarnished?
It will. It will, but only up to a certain point. Look, he did a lot of great things in this sport, maybe the greatest of all time, but this will tarnish it. It will be on his resume. But what happens is, as the months and the years go by, I just think less and less people will remember it, and he'll still be as popular as he's ever been.
Brian, your take.
It's not looking good for him. We look at other sports. Barry Bonds, Lance Armstrong, these guys still haven't shedded any of that. It's still going on for them. For Anderson, if he just would have came clean from the beginning, I think we all could have understood where he was coming from.
Yeah, what happens in Vegas is not going to stay in Vegas now, you know, with this thing. So I think for him, the only way to get out of this, and unfortunately he's getting older, is to fight like at least 4 or 5 more times, get tested every fight, tested every week, so people know for sure, 100% guarantee that he doesn't use anything, and win those fights. And I think once he does that, then people are going to go, because the conspiracy theory right now is, of course, wait a minute, he used in that fight, but he looked exactly the same as in all the other fights. Not like he suddenly put on muscle. So did he use before? You know, people always start thinking that. So I think that's the only way for him to get out of this.
Speaking of returns, Fedor Emelianenko, he may be returning here. Maybe it's in Bellator, maybe it's in the UFC. What if he comes back, guys, and he loses? Boss, will it tarnish his legacy?
Well, he's getting older now. You know, he lost a few fights already. I think his legacy is already there, just like Sakuraba. If the old Fedor shows up, that was my conspiracy theory. Imagine the guy shows up who was the Pride Fighting Championships. Maybe he was injured in 3 fights, you know, when he lost, although for Doom, of course, I think he would have submitted him anyway. But imagine, and that guy comes back. Unfortunately, it's many more years later, so we're going to find out. But I don't think it really will tarnish his career.
Actually, I think that's what's pushing him right now is Fabricio Verdum and all his success. Yep. He has a win over Fedor Emelianenko. I think for Fedor, I think he's kind of chasing that right now. The one thing that people have said is you don't have the victories in the UFC, but he's beaten a lot of heavyweight champions from the UFC. So if he comes back, I would say maybe try and make it work in your benefit. Face a Frank Mir, someone like that. If you can beat him, you could say, hey, I just beat another UFC champion.
Yep. And speaking of Frank Mir along with Andrei Arlovsky, they've had resurgences. Right. And the heavyweight division, 35 is still young. You know, I mean, you got 38-year-olds, 40-year-olds that are still going out there and doing their thing. And Mark Hunt's another name. Krokop recently got a win. These are guys that Fedor Emelianenko defeated. So he's probably seeing that and thinking, I can get in there. I can avenge the Silva, the Bigfoot loss, the Verdum loss, maybe grab another title, make some money. I think he's got a really good shot, and I think it should be done in the UFC. Let's
talk about the major hypothetical pay-per-view, Ronda Rousey taking on Cyborg. Guys, is it going to happen?
Oh, man. The problem is, before we can even entertain this, we need to see Chris Cyborg fight at the weight class first. Yep. We need to see if it's going to be the same gal that's been destroying people. Yep. Until that happens, and until there's still challengers like Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey has her plate full right now, guys.
I want to see the fight no matter what, whether it happens at 35, 40, or 45. I just believe that when you get 2 great athletes and they're in different weight classes and they're dominating their divisions, cleaning house, then at some point make it happen. The UFC should learn from the fact that they didn't get to do GSP versus Anderson, although it's never too late for that. Yep. And then look and see outside the box and see what boxing got when they got Pacquiao and Mayweather. Sure, it was 5 years late, but it was still a mega event in Las Vegas.
But see, that's what I'm hoping, that it's not 5 years too late. I get it from Ronda's point of view. Why wouldn't you have a few more pay-per-views before you take on Cyborg? She's selling crazy number of buys, so why don't you ride that out? I get it. I just don't want this fight to happen too late. Let's talk about some other promotions and begin with Bellator. You know, they're bringing back that spectacle. Do you feel that that's been missing from the sport, guys?
Well, you're asking a guy who's with the Pride Fighting Championship.
It was a spectacle.
and it worked. It was gold over there. So, and look at the numbers they're doing.
Yeah.
They put on a spectacle, and a lot of people are watching it. So I think if it works, why would you fix it? Keep doing it.
I think it's incredible. And we talk about how many fighters across all the organizations. It's so hard to remember everyone. But all you need is those brief seconds. You see that Jumbotron, and you see King Mo walking out, or you see someone, a Marine, you get that little backstory, and it's enough to get me invested in that fighter right then and there.
Let's talk about Rousimar Palhares, who has been in the news once again holding submissions too long. He's been suspended. Does his type of fighting style and actions, does it make the WSOF look like they're out of control? George?
No, I don't think you can hold it against the WSOF. I mean, if WSOF had 5 fights where he kept doing the same thing and didn't do anything about it, then yes. But for me, any other fighter that holds the hold that long after the referee comes in, perhaps their first time it's not as big of a deal. But Rousimar, this is like his 5th, 6th straight time. Not to mention the thumb going inside the eye. That's just something we can't have in our sport.
Yep.
I think, if anything, the black eye is probably on the commission. You know, how can you have that night, guys? There were 2 people in that cage.
Yep.
It was almost like there wasn't a referee. All those fouls, holding on too long. I think the black eye goes on the commission.
What I don't like about it is the fighting outside of the stands and things like that. That makes a promotion look like they've lost control. Hopefully, the WSOF gets that under control.
Yeah, but that again also, they can't control that, what happens in the audience. I think it was childish. I think, if alcohol is involved, I can get it, but otherwise, if it was not involved, they're complete idiots. Who does that? You're a little child when you start doing that at an event, and especially from another company, it was the worst thing ever.
Inside MMA, live every Friday night on AXS TV, your home for MMA.